I'm Mez Moon, this is Studio Q. This week we'll be examining the question that has been plaguing lesbians for centuries. How do you meet women? In this age of technology, online dating sites have become one of the easiest and most convenient ways of connecting with like-minded people. Whether you're looking for friends, flings, or the woman of your dreams, the internet, with all of its uses, is now becoming the ultimate tool for something that we're all looking for, and that's connection. Connection with a community that we can call our own. With me to help find out more about online dating is Nicole, the marketing coordinator for Pink Sopha. Hey Jo, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Miz.
Now, Pink Sopha has 55,000 members in Australia. I didn't know there were that many of us.
Yeah, well, that's the number that we currently have, and that's growing all the time. And discussions that we've had previously, we've talked about how many people we each know that have met on the sofa, that have met life partners or made lots of friends. So yeah, it's out there. Not everybody knows about it.
Actually, when I said us, I sort of meant lesbians. So wow, so many women, so little time. So how did the Pink Sopha start?
Well, the founder of Pink Sopha, Liz James, she was a PE teacher and a Japanese teacher, and spent some time travelling and working around the world. And one of the places she spent some time in was New York. Mm-hmm. And she was really struck there by the internet was really just developing then, so we're talking maybe 10, 15 years ago when she was there. Was really struck by how it was connecting communities, and as you mentioned in your introduction there about connecting like-minded people.
Yeah.
She's a lesbian, and she just wondered whether there was anything happening back in Australia to connect the gay and lesbian community. So when she came back from her travels, she did some research and found that there wasn't, mm-hmm. and found there was a need for the Pink Sopha. So she started up the website, literally working from her bedroom. And it was originally for gay men and women. Right. And then as time progressed, she found that women obviously had their own needs. The gay male market was probably better catered for in that regard. So she decided just to have the Pink Sopha for women, and it's just gone from strength to strength since then. It's been going for about 7 years now.
So why are women using the site? Well, what are they using it for mostly? Do they use it to get dates, to build a network of friends, find out what's happening in the community? What sort of, all of those?
Yeah, all of those things. I think in the beginning it was predominantly a dating site, mm-hmm. so people would go online and they'd find friends or partners. That's developed more into more of a community feel. So we have forums, so people can post a topic that they want to know some information about. It might be that they're looking for support if they're just coming out, to find out ways of doing that and find out what support services are available. It could be simple things about a question about a pet they might have.
Right.
So I guess the community is very supportive, and being able to post things relatively anonymously on the website means that you can get answers to questions that might be hard to ask otherwise. So it's not just about dating, that's definitely an aspect of it, but it's more about building your social network, mm-hmm. with people that understand your needs, basically.
Yeah, the whole picture. And so what sort of feedback are staff getting about the site?
The main thing we get is people feel really safe on the site. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of, not so much of women, there's a lot of dating sites out there that they're really in it just for the quick buck. So you pay subscription fees, you post your profile, it doesn't seem to be reviewed or checked. You can put any sort of explicit photo up there. Mm-hmm. We have a really dedicated customer service team that makes sure the profiles, there's no way of telling 100% who you're dealing with, but they're checked for to make sure that they're not offensive to people. We're just about to introduce a code of conduct that members will agree to, saying how they will treat other members. They'll treat them with respect, they won't harass people, they'll make sure that the site is safe for everybody. So we're very different in that respect. We're not just out for the quick buck, just to get people's photos on there and keep moving through. We really want to make sure it's a safe, protected environment, so people feel safe and they feel like being involved in the community.
And speaking of that safety aspect, I suppose the whole thing is that we're speaking with people saying who they they really seem to be. One of the old horror stories that we often hear is how a girl might think she's found the woman of her dreams and then turns out to be a man. Well, I don't know what men get out of that, but that's a whole other interview, I suppose. But how does a sophette know the person they're chatting to is actually a woman?
Well, I guess you don't know. But again, going back to our customer service team, because they deal so closely with the members, and I think they can pick up the nuances that a woman's conversation would have, or a profile, rather than a man's. So, you know, there's no guarantees, I guess, but in terms of dealing with the members and accepting members' feedback, and if anybody's a little bit suspicious that they've met someone who may not be who they say they are, they'll let our web mistress know, and then she'll take some steps to see what's going on. So yeah, I guess internet dating is not 100% safe, nor is meeting somebody in a bar and going home with them that night. So in terms of safety and keeping our members protected, we're taking all the steps that are possible.
Now, living proof that this online dating game works, apart from myself, but we have Joe and Sal joining us as well, and you actually met on the pink sofa, Joe and Sal?
We did 18 months ago.
Yeah?
Yep.
18 months ago.
Yeah. So we chatted online for about 4 months, and then we decided that we'd meet each other. So Sally was originally from Tasmania, so she flew over for the weekend and we met, and yeah, we've been together ever since.
Well, obviously something impressed you enough online to do the flight over. And did you go to telephone calls pretty early on, or you just in the community? Did you know of each other on the online community?
No, we didn't go to phone calls straight away. We chatted online for a little while, and yeah, it was probably a month or something before we talked on the phone, I think. We just stumbled across each other, actually. Joe found me. Yeah, we actually almost missed talking.
Yeah,
but
it's like that sliding doors.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was just meant to happen.
Yeah.
So what prompted you to try online dating?
Because I'm from Geelong, and there isn't a lot of, unless you come to Melbourne all the time, which I really don't like coming up to the big smoke. And we have, although we have a group in Geelong, it only meets once a month. And to meet somebody, it's really either you go out to meet somebody, or it's really hard to meet somebody. So a friend of mine had joined the Sopha and met somebody, and I thought, well, if she can do it, I can do it. So
word of mouth.
Yeah, definitely. Gave it a go.
Yeah. I came from a small country town, so.
And what advice would you give to anyone trying to meet women for the first time online?
I would suggest chat for a little while first, because sometimes first time you speak with somebody could be fine, and then the next time you're talking to them and the time after that it's not really, you tend to pick up sometimes that something isn't quite right, or you just know that that person isn't for you or whatever. So certainly do that. I think though, if you take the time to actually get to know someone a little bit online first, then meet somewhere and actually get to know that person.
Joe, do you think online, obviously you're marketing manager for Pink Sofa, you would think it's the way forward?
I do. It's not to discount traditional methods of meeting either, but I think there's so many technologies that are developing as well that's going to make online dating much more accessible and much easier to use. One of the things we're looking to implement quite soon is anonymous phone calls. So you could be online chatting to someone on the Pink Sofa using instant message, and then you can say, oh, I'd actually like to talk to you, and you can send a message saying, I want to call you, and it's anonymous. You don't know their number, they don't know your number, so it all sort of works behind the scenes. Wow. And I think particularly women, someone's voice is really important in terms of identifying what that person's like. So you get away from just, the keyboard, and you get to hear that person, their voice, and I think that will tell you a lot about the person. So that's one of the things. Another one down the track will be online games, so you can play online games while you're chatting as well, and that's something that will sort of break the ice as well.
Well, this is Studio Q. We've been talking with Nicole, the marketing coordinator for Pink Sofa, and living proof that online dating can end happily ever after. Thanks for joining us, girls. Thanks for joining us, and good luck for your futures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mez Moon. You've been watching Studio Q. Have a good night.
Welcome Welcome back to Q Focus. I'm Mark. I'm joined again by Doug Pollard, Collette, Corr and Tim Newton.
Hi, Mark.
Thanks again for coming back. And
We only come because the pay's good. It's the only reason.
And the cuisine.
and the cuisine.
Catering van's ace.
Better than a Midsumma Carnival.
I want a bigger trailer.
A little cheaper. A lot cheaper, actually.
It's free.
Yes.
Anyway, we're talking tonight about public figures and what you say and how careful you have to be about what you say, because anything you say can be taken out of context. Even us, we're not above being criticised. Especially, why do you laugh?
Carry on.
Justice Michael Kirby made some comment which has been blown right out of proportion.
Yes, he was sitting on the High Court bench at the time. He's hearing the case of Jihad Jack, the taxi driver who decided he wanted to blow up Sydney, according to the government, and has since been subject to a control order which restricts the number of people he can meet, when he can go out, when he can have a curry for breakfast, all that kind of stuff. And he was seeking to have that order varied. Now, there were arguments going on in court about, the world having changed since September 11th. And Michael Kirby interrupted the lawyer to say, basically, the Americans are obsessed with September 11th. It's really about time they got over it. More people die of AIDS every day than died in that one day in New York. And this touched off a firestorm, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, well, it started off the next morning on Talkback Radio, and people were very upset with the comments, and I was very upset with the comments. And I'll tell you why. This man is he's a very prominent gay member of our community, but he's a High Court judge, and he shouldn't be making political comments about these matters. And comparing the HIV crisis and the number of people that die with HIV, which is horrendous, against the number of people that died on September the 11th, when 2,900 people died, is irrelevant. How can you compare those two things? It's like comparing the Holocaust and the road toll. I mean, they're two totally separate but equally awful events. You can't compare them.
But people make comments on the spur of the moment. I mean, yes, he is a High Court judge, Michael Kirby, and to be honest...
He knew what he was saying. He knew it would be particularly appropriate to really stir the pot up and pick on his pet subject, which is HIV and the crisis around the world. He knew what would happen. He knew there'd be media traction and there'd be a firestorm on the talkback shows the next morning.
What he said about September 11, maybe not, we should start putting it into perspective, and that it is not perhaps as important as it was a few years ago.
Well, tell the people that died. They were going to work calmly, innocently on that day, and they got killed.
I don't agree.
They took it pretty seriously.
I don't agree with him, but I respect his right to say that, because we should have debate about this. I personally watched the television when the Twin Towers are coming down. And I think it's an amazing symbol. It's something I'll remember for the rest of my life. It changed my life. It changed the way I saw everything, because it was a symbol of this ultimate safety, this power of the Western world, this beautiful thing just destroyed, an absolute catastrophe happening in one of the richest countries in the world, also with enough poor people to be classified technically as a developing country. That it made me realise that yes, no one is safe.
But how do you compare that tragedy against another tragedy? They're all tragedies, but you can't compare them.
The point is, the Americans did overreact to September 11th. Yes, it was a shocking event. It was shocking because up until that point, the Americans felt quite immune from any kind of reaction to what they were doing in any other country in the world.
Doug, if someone flew
off to Nigeria and bombed the shit out of people, but if Nigerians come back and bomb them, they don't like it.
If someone flew a Boeing 757 into your house, you'd overreact too. You'd be pretty pissed off.
Yes, I know, but you would get over it.
Well, America, how many wars is there?
Hang on, so what you're saying is that the Americans should get over that, move on and not make...
I think it was a very, very shocking event, and I'm not diminishing the power of it or the evil of it or anything else. But I do think it needs to be put in perspective. I think the answer to what is basically a criminal act, which is what that was, is not a military answer. You don't go yomping off and bombing a few other countries that basically had very little to do with it in consequence. I mean, the people who did September 11th were financed and promoted by people who came from Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, yet they're supposed to be our two best allies on the war on terror. So, got to go and hit somebody, so go and hit Afghanistan and Iraq instead. It's nonsense.
Vulnerable.
Yeah. Doug, you're getting off the point. Let's go back to Justice Kirby's comments before you start making your political comment about September 11th and the war that ensued. is that the people that went on that day to go to work, the 2,900 of them, they had no idea that people were flying planes as bombs into their building. They were innocent victims. The people who die from HIV/AIDS either don't have the education or have been careless. And that's how they become infected with HIV.
There are people who are
They're two totally different things.
There are people who are infected with HIV who are perhaps in monogamous relationships and their partners are unfaithful. There are still people who are infected with HIV through
They didn't have the
blood
knowledge.
transplants or through not through
Unfortunate victims.
And there are victims. And what about in Africa? If you're a woman and
That's
your
right.
husband
That's
has
what I
HIV,
said.
you can't
They don't
say,
have the
"No
education
sex
in
for
those
you.
countries.
Just go and think about cricket. No, they have to have sex with their husband. So they're getting AIDS whether they want to
That's
or
right.
not.
There's not enough
Yes.
education in those countries. It's a shame.
I think there's
sorry.
another point I want to drag in here, if I may. Just that you're talking about getting back to the subject in hand. What the judge was doing at that time was challenging what the government solicitor was saying. Now that is one of the judge's functions, right? His function is to kind of test, if you like, the case that's being put in front of him, is to challenge what's being put in front of him. So it wasn't so much, I don't think, aimed as a comment to get himself onto the radio or get himself talked about. He simply chose an example out of his own experience and to say, well, okay, 3,000 people died there, 7,000 people died of AIDS. So you explain to me why you think what happened on that day was more important than what's happening to people who have AIDS.
I think
he
it's
was making a legal point.
It's the role of the prosecution and the defence to test the arguments. It's the role of the judge to look at both sides in a fair and equitable way. And in this case, he didn't.
But you may have said a lot of other things that other things didn't get reported.
But the
That
judge
always
can
happens.
challenge the case. If he thinks the prosecution has a weaker case than the defence, he'll challenge them.
And he can
Because-
challenge the defence too.
Yes.
Okay, so really you don't think the judge should have made any comment either way. And you're saying that the comment that he made was really blown right out of
Well,
proportion.
when he's
I think
out
it
of the
was blown
high...
out of proportion, yes. He was just doing what a judge is supposed to do.
But if he's out of the High Court, if he's speaking at a conference or at a meeting, then he can make all those comments that he wants to. But when he's in the High Court, I think he's got a responsibility not to be political. And he is the most prominent, let's say, gay spokesman in Australia. He's a High Court judge. I think he's got a responsibility to the gay and lesbian community to make sure when he opens his mouth, he's very careful what he says about those issues.
Well, you don't see any other High Court judge keeping his mouth shut about his or her pet issues, do you?
I mean, this is
About,
Well, name another High Court
about
judge in
lazy
Australia.
Aboriginals that you hear a lot about single mothers, about whatever you choose.
women wearing
It's only because
short
it's coming from a
skirts.
left-wing judge.
Well,
The invitation to rape, wasn't that in the 1980s, late 1980s?
By a High Court judge?
Yes,
Yes.
Callanan, I think it was, wasn't
Yes.
it, who made that remark?
I'd say he's the most prominent High Court judge in this country because of his views and because, let's face it, of the fact he's homosexual.
And a patron
That's
of the
attractive to the
Argonauts
media.
and of the Melbourne Out Games.
And because he was vilified. Yeah.
Oh yes, that was nasty.
He was a victim and then he fought back.
Another
I love
problem
that.
on
He's
another
a
day.
battler. Yes.
That'll have to be for another day. I'll be here all night.
Yes, we will. All right, we have to go. We'll see you next time on Q Focus. Doug, Collette and Tim, thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming on. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Jo, you're watching Studio Q. With me now I have Louise and Craig who are going to tell us a little bit about the Melbourne Gay and Lesbian Chorus. Louise, how long has the chorus been going for?
Now, this is the chorus's 17th year. Originally they were started by the Also Foundation and a group of people, and today the chorus is thriving. We have about 80 or 90 members, 60 at any given time that are singing, and we love it.
Excellent. How many people does it actually take to make up a choir?
Well, two I suppose. One to play and one to sing, or two to sing. Really, when two people, the voices are raised in a song, you could say that was a choir. I mean, there are barbershop quartets that are considered to be choirs.
And what events, you do a lot of community events, what sort of events do you sing at?
Basically we sing at Midsumma, we march in Pride March and sing during that. And also we have usually have two major concerts each year. and as well as culminating in the community Christmas concert, which is free at the end of the year. And last year we raised a certain amount of money, which we then give back to the community. And when we perform at the community events, we try to work on
Seniors Week.
Seniors Week, yes.
We also did a choir festival with straight choirs, and that was done in Hawthorn. It was really well received from the other choruses that are there, and challenging for some of them, that we were there as a gay and lesbian group. And we've done certain things like launches of businesses and that sort of thing. We've sung in bookshop launches, a launch for a cafe, that sort of thing. It depends what the business wants from the chorus, whether it's just an exposure. We probably wouldn't do it, but if there's some sort of comeback to us and there are sponsors or that sort of thing, then we don't mind doing it. And if it's going to help promote gay and lesbian issues in the broader community, then we're in there.
And I understand you have a couple of CDs out.
One is Evolution and one is Feeling Groovy, and they're a compilation of 3 concerts that the chorus participated in last year, the Feeling Groovy and the Around the World with 80 Gays concert. And when we sang with Jimmy Somerville in the Hamer Hall at the start of the year, which was a fantastic experience. And together we've managed to put together 2 CDs. And we'll be performing on main stage later on and then launching after that.
That's fabulous. So for anybody who wants to buy the CD, how can they get a copy?
The CDs are available by going to the Melbourne Gay and Lesbian website, which is www.mglc.org.au, and the CDs will also be available from Hares and Hyenas online.
And for anybody who wants to join the chorus?
Again, you can go to our website or send an email to info@mglc.org.au, and our new member coordinators will then get back to them with details as to the next intake. And we usually have an intake just after we have a concert.
Yep. Good, that's fabulous. Thank you, Louise, and thank you, Craig.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jo Mullins and you're on Studio Q. With me now is Mark and Sarah from the Melbourne Rainbow Band, who are going to tell us a little bit more about the Rainbow Band. Mark, so the Melbourne Rainbow Band is obviously a band. What sort of events do you perform at?
The sort of events that the Melbourne Rainbow Band get to are most of things that are involved in Midsumma, be it Pride March or be it going off to Joy FM Picnic, coming here to Carnival Day, being also involved in Mardi Gras in Sydney. We go up for each year, so we've got a lot of events that we're involved in. We also do private gigs as well as being on stage to do sit-down performances also.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of instruments do your members play?
We have brass and woodwind and percussion mainly, so we've got clarinets, flutes, trumpets, trombones, French horns, tubas and percussion.
That's a lot of instruments.
We've got lots of room for people.
Yeah. So. Do most members play more than one instrument?
Some do. Some specialise on their own, whatever that may be. Others will play different instruments. Yeah, just for interest's sake, but also because it's like what the needs of the band are. If we need, more trumpet, there might be someone playing trumpet rather than playing saxophone, like Sarah. She's resident trumpet player now.
Yeah. And for people who are interested in joining, what sort of level of expertise do you require of members?
We only require that you be able to read music and be that at a basic level, because your skills improve by being in the band. Every time you come along to rehearsals on Thursday night, you get the opportunity to play through stuff and improve your skills. And I also know that all the other members will help you out with different types of things. And even so, we could probably arrange music lessons, whatever may be the case, to help you come up to standard.
Yeah, I think if you ever played in high school or primary school, you'll be pretty right.
And so you rehearse every Thursday night?
Every Thursday night in Windsor we actually rehearse, and if you'd like to come along to one of our rehearsals, jump online to our website, which is www.mrb.org.au, and you can find out all the information through there. By joining, you can find out information about where we rehearse, as to where we perform, what our upcoming events are, and where you're going to see us out in the community.
Excellent. Thank you both very much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.